This kit is specific to a still and video workflow for a series of events I shoot every spring around Midtown in the 5 boroughs. The two bodies I'm working with here are the Sony A1 on the left and the Sony A7S III on the right. On the A1 I like the 24-240 everything lens. The ECM B10. A rotating collar is an absolute must these days. The small fluid head is a Zero, all on top of a 5.5 foot Zero monopod with feet. And I have two of these. The second one for the S3 is mounted directly onto the RS3 Pro with DJI's own vertical mount. Lens is a 24-70 f4, usually around 35mm, and this mic is the M1. All my external buttons and internal settings are customized to match, and so are the My menu settings for the things I commonly use. And I'm in autofocus continuous for everything with touchscreen enabled. So with grid lines on, I'm at 1/125th f6.3 because that's the minimum of the 24-240 when it's zoomed out, and that'll prevent the f-stop from changing itself when I'm wide and then zoom in. I'm shooting XAVC-S in 4K 60, 10-bit 422, picture profile off, and the creative look is standard, but I'm changing the settings inside standard by lifting my shadows and adding a little bit of sharpness. And this next part is absolutely critical. I keep my zebras at 95 and Dro at level 4. I basically never turn this off. It really lifts up and separates the shadows and gives you the look of graded log in most commercial scenarios, just by default, saving you all those steps in post-production. And why that's so important for events is simply skin tones. I don't have to choose between highs or lows in a heavily mixed race environment. I want them both, and I want them both in camera. Not a big deal in stills because you have higher dynamic range with more information to work with, but I still don't want to have to do all that masking in post. Where these settings really shine is video. Think in terms of a value step scale. You want to see the beginnings of zebras or maybe 2 stops into zebras for things that are actually white, but if you're seeing them on the higher skin tones, your exposure is too high. Simple, right? For anyone out there who's been in the game long enough to have worked in the zone system, black and white fine printing back in the day, exposed for the shadows and developed for the highs, this is basically the opposite. I already have my shadows, so all I have to do is focus on exposing for the highs. RAW is a ridiculously inefficient workflow for commercial, and so is log. But log is useful when the contrast is completely out of control, so it's important to learn how to be proficient at it, because there absolutely will be times when there is no substitute. That's how I approach exposure with dynamic range. The other part is color balance. Especially when there's multiple areas that need to be covered, I'm just going to get there early and get a white balance for each of those areas. So after I find a place to put my gear, this is the foundation of my workflow. It's the very first thing I do. And while things in the environment like tablecloths, signs, shirts, walls will work, I want uniformity. Instead of going this direction, I just fold up a bunch of sheets of neutral printer paper. Double sheets, 8.5 by 11, folded a couple of times in my pocket, in my vest if I need to wear one, in my kit. That way they're always around and available if things change and I need them right away. And I white balance both bodies, always going to be some variation in the settings of 1 to 3 in the order in which I'm working. Sony's internal color science is pretty accurate, but if things look too saturated one way or the other, based on what I know to be correct in the EVF, I will make adjustments with the color wheel to compensate. Then for dark or uneven areas like this front sign-in desk, I already know what the area is, and I can just dial that into my COB. So that's exposure with dynamic range and color balance onto audio. I'll always try to plug into the mixing board if it's possible, and if it's not, at bigger events, I'll try to get the in-house to send me the feed. The difference can be crazy.
For real world skills, to do real things for real New Yorkers. For real world skills, to do real things for real New Yorkers.
And in worst case scenarios, I'm just going to shotgun mic the least distorted speaker directly to camera. But for the most part, when I'm not dealing with a formal presentation, these little guys crush. For example, this environment was so loud I could not distinguish what this person was saying 10 feet in front of me from the background.
Congratulations, class of 2025. We did it. We made it.
But I knew the M1, set to ultra directional, would. And when I need to lav or overhead shotgun, I like the URX systems because it's like an XLR quality right into the hot shoe. You just need Sony's P5 adapter. So there's a couple more things about how this kit relates to workflow. On the A1, I want a seamless transition from still to video. Top dial stays in M for stills mode, and my AF on back button is programmed for record. This often allows me to catch a scene both ways. All you have to do is go into the menu and make sure nothing is checked to change that. The instant aspect ratio crop going from 3:2 to 16:9 is a little annoying at first. Take some time and practice to get used to that, but after a while you learn how to compensate with the zoom before the transition in either direction. And speaking of zoom, the 24-240 allows me to go from stadium seating to profiles right in front of me, which is all about the monopod but in combination with the viewfinder. It's more like this, 4 points of contact. Left hand is for zoom, right hand records, tilts, and pans. Head against the viewfinder adds the stabilization, and of course the monopod is a base for all of this. but it's looking through the viewfinder that allows me the speed and precision of accurate framing when I zoom or pan, because often I'm doing both together. I can go still to vid in the S3 as well. Back buttons are Bluetooth to the DJI handle, but 12 megs is just not a match to 50. The S3 is really all about vertical video, and the monopod gives me a combination of jib with gimbal. I call it a jimbal. I always extend the back for counterbalance, and this gives me a wide range of height and width with smooth movement, almost like a crane with a remote joystick. And that's the basics. Post-production in this is really a video by itself, but the end result is basically professional UGC. Meaning, all the videos and photos post to a Flickr album the next day, which is marketed to the students in email by bit.ly link and on location by QR code. There's no login, sign up, or fee. They can take whatever they want, use it for whatever they want, and of course they're going to share on social. All it takes is a hashtag, and that's how you get free UGC. Essentially, free marketing at scale. The stills in these albums are 8x12 300 DPI, the videos HD, and the client gets all the big stuff in Dropbox, which they'll use for official marketing. And these guys are most active on Insta, so I'll make a reel to music or carousel, and post that in collab, usually around 11 o'clock the next day, trying to get peak hours. But really, this process and all the technicals become, through repetition, like a natural reaction. So when I'm out there moving and things are changing, I don't really have to think about them too much. And that allows me to relax and focus on the real foundation of my game, which is all about visual design.